Greetings, viewers and fellow Imperial Knights! This is Hondo Moonrazor here, proudly announcing the first crossover between myself and Darth Judicar. This matchup was not inspired by any similarities in combat or skills, although they are reasonably well matched there, obviously, if we're going to make a video about it. But this was actually based off of their ideologies. Obi Wan Kenobi is one of the best examples of what a Jedi should be, because at his heart, he's just a good person. Atris, on the other hand, could make Yoda root for the Sith. With all that being said and the introduction out of the way, let's see who wins. Born on the farming planet of Stujon 25 years before the Battle of Naboo, Obi Wan Kenobi would go on to become one of the most renowned Jedi in history. Trained by Qui-Gon Jinn and the master of both Anakin and Luke Skywalker, Master Kenobi was a wise leader and skilled warrior who fought on the front lines of the Clone Wars and was one of the few Jedi to escape the Great Jedi Purge.
Born about 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, Atris was a Jedi Master who lived during the Mandalorian Wars, the Jedi Civil War, and the Dark Wars. During the first Jedi Purge, she managed to escape the clutches of the Sith Triumvirate on numerous occasions, and under the ice cap of Telos began to study the dark side of the Force. She fell to the dark side and eventually was confronted by the Jedi exile Mitra Surik, where she was defeated and was redeemed and put before the Jedi on trial for her actions.
Master Obi Wan Kenobi was a human male, roughly 43 years of age. Although he was close to the end of his prime age, Kenobi was still in incredibly good shape. He was shot, stabbed, poisoned, broke bones, and had the ever-loving snot beat out of him more than once, but kept on going. Much less survived. All that being said, he was still human, had to have considerable recovery time after his most impressive feats.
Atris was a human female of undetermined age, but was likely in her 40s or 50s by the time of the Dark Wars. In terms of physical ability, there was very little to set her apart from other members of the Jedi Order or even the Sith of her era, but she was still an accomplished fighter. And given the fact that she is a master of a specific and probably the most aggressive form of lightsaber combat, and that she was able to hold her own against both Darth's Nihilus and Scion, she was an incredibly physically fit individual.
Yes, Kenobi is a physical tank, capable of taking an insane amount of damage before going down. However, at the end of the day, he is still a squishy little human thing with a similar aging condition to Atris. In other words, a lightsaber will just decapitate him the same as it would anyone else. Thus, they are equals in terms of physical condition. Obi Wan Kenobi was part of a long-lasting chain of Master Swordsmen, beginning with Grandmaster Yoda, ending with Grandmaster Luke, and containing others such as Count Dooku and Ashoka Tano. Although he had some knowledge of Shai Cho, Ataru, and Jar Kai, Kenobi's primary form was Surisu. Erecting a nearly impenetrable defense, Kenobi was considered by both Windu and Dooku to be the greatest Surisu master of his time and absolute expert at blast deflection. Although his prime was at the end of the Clone Wars, Kenobi was a master masterful warrior most of his life. As a Padawan, Kenobi drove Sith assassin Darth Maul onto his back foot, and as an aging veteran, he still managed to stalemate infamous Jedi killer Darth Vader. In his prime, Kenobi was one of the best the Order had to offer. He managed to defeat Asajj Ventress on several occasions, he survived many engagements with General Grievous, and, although he never actually beat him with a blade, he still fared a lot better than most against the Jedi Hunter. Many other warriors, including Pre Vizsla, Dirge, Xanatos, and Cad Bane, to name just a few, have found themselves on the losing side against Kenobi. Most impressively, Kenobi not only managed to fight completely evenly with Anakin Skywalker, who many, even Kenobi himself, believed to be the better duelist, but actually defeated the Night Brothers Savage Opress and Darth Maul at the same time, an achievement only matched by Lord Sidious. True, Kenobi was armed with a second blade at the time, but it still speaks to a high degree of martial skill. However, Kenobi was not perfect. Dooku, for example, could consistently beat his defenses and drive the Jedi Master back, although he sometimes had to resort to his Force powers to do so. Although it's just by personal bias, and I highly doubt Darth Judicar agrees with this opinion, I peg Obi Wan Kenobi as either the second or third best Jedi duelist of his age.
While Atris's original lightsaber form can only be speculated on, I believe, and it has been pretty much confirmed, that by the point of her fall to the dark side, she had been studying the seventh form of lightsaber combat, Juyo. The most aggressive form of lightsaber combat, Juyo, specialized in a purely offensive attack and had very little in the way of defense, which showed in Atris's application of it. However, practitioners of Juyo had to have something else to build on in order to prepare for using it, and I believe that this can be guessed. In Atris's case, I believe that this is Nyman, which allowed her to utilize elements of the previous 5 lightsaber combat forms. However, she did not use it defensively, instead used it to chain in force abilities. Also, it is a gateway to Jarkai dual blade fencing, which she demonstrated in her duel against Darth Sion. And while she lacked any real defense, she did have a strong offense, which served her well in many instances. However, in this case, I don't think that it would help her that much.
In the martial arts category is where we will probably find the largest disparity. Kenobi has gone up against the greatest darksiders of his time, holding his own against almost all of them. Atris has comparatively little experience in this arena. Add in that Kenobi's advanced Cereso form is practically specialized to combat Juya practitioners, and Obi Wan Kenobi gets the edge in martial arts. Most famous for his skills with a blade, Obi Wan Kenobi was still quite powerful with the Force. Kenobi was highly skilled with telekinesis, unleashing Force pushes powerful enough to destroy entire droid squads with hand wave and lifting objects weighing many tons. Augmenting himself through the light side of the Force, Kenobi could move in the blink of an eye and take enough damage to fell 10 non-Force sensitives. Kenobi also inherited a preference for mind tricks from his master. The biggest evidence of his power in the Force, however, was his ability to transcend the physical plane and live on as a Force ghost.
Because she was a Jedi consular, Atris put a lot of focus on her Force abilities. She was proficient in telekinetic and telepathic attacks while she was still a light side user. When she fell to the dark side, Atris learned how to use Force Lightning to shock opponents to great effect, as well as Force Choke. She was also capable of using Force Drain, but not to the same effect as other users throughout history, such as Darth Nihilus. Most notably, she was capable of using Force Fear, which would bring the fears of the user out to the forefront of the battle and would greatly affect them and give her an edge in combat. So yeah, in terms of Force, Atris was a skilled combatant and was not someone to be taken lightly. In terms of Force abilities, these two actually are relatively close together. While Atris has some abilities that Kenobi doesn't, it really comes down to which abilities are practical in terms of fighting. Force Fear requires too much concentration, and the only real abilities that will come into consideration that they don't both have is Force Lightning, but Kenobi has shown to be capable of defending against this in the past. As such, I declare them equals in terms of Force abilities.
In contrast to the simple weapon design based off of his former master's design that he had originally constructed, Kenobi's third weapon featured a much more skeletal make. The emitter was separated from the body of the weapon by a bronze cutback, thin choke portion which also held the reverse power core. Immediately below this slim bar was the ridged hand grip, which occupied the central third of the hilt. The activator was throttle style, the same sort featured in Anakin Skywalker's design. The lone design feature common between Obi Wan Kenobi's new and old weapons were a set of evenly spaced protrusions around the circumference of the pommel. It was powered by a single blue Adagan crystal.
In terms of lightsaber, Atris had a standard lightsaber for her era that had nothing of any real note. It was a standard one-bladed lightsaber with a normal hilt and outfitted with a blue synthetic crystal, but beyond that, there is really nothing to write home about. Yeah, this is an easy call to make. Basically, both Kenobi and Atris have, much like most of my duelists, have the exact same weapon. The only real advantage either of them would have for their familiarity with their individual weapons, but this would have no real impact on the fight. As such, I declare them equals in terms of equipment. Okay, we've gotten this far, so let us set up the battle itself. It will take place in the months following the end of the Clone Wars, where Kenobi is just starting to settle into his exile on Tatooine. Kenobi is deep in meditation at this time, preparing to learn more about the living force from the spirit of Qui-Gon Jinn when he feels a presence approaching. Atris, having arrived under unusual circumstances, charges at Kenobi with her lightsaber drawn. Kenobi quickly ignites his lightsaber and parries it with a perfect Surisu counter. While Atris manages to strike hard, she is quickly countered by Kenobi's use of Surisu, which blocks every attempted hit. Realizing that her lightsaber was going to do her very little good, she attempts to shock him with a torrent of Force lightning. Kenobi just absorbs it with his lightsaber blade, and Atris goes once again on the offensive, charging at Kenobi as she does so. By this point, Atris is starting to get frustrated, and it's starting to show as she becomes more and more sloppy in her attacks. And at the same time, Kenobi is starting to hit her with his own offensive moves. However, she is incapable of defending against them effectively. Finally, after blocking a few more of Atris's attacks, Kenobi blocks the one final attack and cuts her lightsaber cleanly in half. Fallen Jedi collapses on her knees, looking down at the sands of Tatooine, expecting the final blow to come at any time. Instead, she hears a calm voice as a hand is offered to her to help her up to her feet. Instead of killing her, Kenobi offers her a chance to return to the light side, and the two of them leave, heading towards Kenobi's homestead in the distance. In the end, I declare Jedi Master Obi Wan Kenobi the victor. So yeah, there you go. That's the end of my first collaboration video and our first collaboration together, me and Hondo. I first want to thank Hondo. This has been really fun to do, and I hope to do it again. And also everyone who's been watching. Well, I don't know what else to say. Just keep those suggestions coming, and if anyone else wants to do a collaboration, or if Hondo wants to do another one, I'm always up for it. So yeah, we'll see you next time in our own videos. Tersai Mai.